Oh, here's Fern. So she's from, I think she's from, I'm not exactly sure.
Oh, I should put where I'm from.
Well, almost everybody's from Greater Tucson.
Yeah.
Do you want us to put that in?
Sure. Probably not.
Probably not for this one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fern, where are you from?
I am from Northwest Valley,
Okay, so Northwest.
Maricopa County.
So you're with Metro Phoenix then?
No, I'm not.
You're with Northwest?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just let me write that down. I have it on another list, but I wasn't going to dig it out. So, I will tell those of you who are in now, the extra person known as recording account is the laptop behind me. And I'm recording this locally and also to the cloud. So we are sure to get it. So
Good.
that's why I just changed my name on that.
And then you put it out on the newsletter, or is it on YouTube? How do you access them?
We're going to make some decisions whether we'll just put it out or whether we'll have it gussied up a bit.
You're gonna do your magic.
Gussied up. Yeah. But we'll have Jeremy do it.
Kate, did you ever hire anyone? Did you find an intern?
Yeah, we've had 2 apply.
Oh,
And we're
good.
interviewing one of them this week, probably the other one soon too.
Mhm.
They both look really great. We're very
Oh,
excited.
good. Good. When will they start?
Probably when the semester starts, which is August 23rd
Oh, really? Good.
for the U of A. They're both U of A students.
Oh, good.
One's a journalism major, the other one is communications.
Ooh, communications.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine journalism has changed a lot. You probably have to know all the technology now
Yeah.
to be a journalist.
I think they're both Latina women, as far as I can tell. Both, I think one of them is a Spanish minor.
Hmm.
It's
That would
great.
be nice.
Yeah.
I bet you've been working very hard on all of this, Sydney.
I had a lot of help. It was fun to learn all this. Carol West and Kate are both very much into the history, so they had good stories and good archived stuff, and so
That's
it made
great.
it pretty easy. How have you been doing, Nancy?
Pretty good. Happy to be back in Tucson.
Oh, were you with your grandma all this time?
I was, yeah, for about 2
Oh.
months.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah,
it's nice to be able to spend that much time.
I'm very lucky. Yes, that's true. And so happy for the rain. Oh my goodness.
Oh, hasn't it been nice? So you got back
Yeah.
in time for that, huh?
Yeah, well, I've been back a little more than a week, so I missed the first,
Oh,
few
yeah.
big storms, but yeah, I've been here for the last few. Wonderful.
Mhm.
And the Texas toads and all that fun stuff.
I haven't seen those yet.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I saw a mushroom the other day. It's like, wow, mushroom in Arizona.
I can't.
Are you got your voice on? Turn it off.
You want to give it another minute, Kate?
Yeah, sure.
And then start.
Any latecomers? Okay.
Put on some lipstick.
I don't think it wants you to do like this.
I thought Carol West was helping with this.
Oh, yeah, she should be here.
Is she not coming?
Well, I hope she's coming.
Yeah, I'll give her an email.
I don't think I have her phone number. I'm going to go and see if there's any emails
Or
from her.
I'll forward her the link just to see. Oh, she just emailed me.
Does she need to have it forwarded again?
Yeah, probably.
Let me see if I can do that.
Herschel, it's time we got together. We're back.
I was gonna say, you must be back.
Well,
I
we
sent
are
you-
back.
Something, a note somewhere along the line.
Yeah. We're gone for a long time.
Yes. So you had a good time? Was good?
It was, when you spend time with children and three
Oh.
children under 3, it's good and exhausting.
Yes. It's been a long time since I've needed to do that, but yes, I understand.
Okay, I just sent her a confirmation.
Okay.
So.
Uh-oh, I did something wrong.
Why?
Well, I was trying to get back on the other computer there. And it kicked me off, but you'll just have to see the side of my face because I don't know how to get back to the other one.
All right.
I can't figure all this technology stuff out. That doesn't help. Oh, this helps a little bit. Let me see if I can.
So I'm gonna deal with Carol West and you can start if you wish.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. This is our boot camp on the history of the Greater Tucson League, which we decided to do because there's just been a lot of interest in it lately. And this is our 80th anniversary year, believe it or not. We have been around since 1941. And we're planning to do possibly, I think this is underway, an anniversary party this fall. And so kind of in preparation for that, we thought we would kind of give an overview of some of the highlights of our 80 years, some of the really fun little tidbits, facts and stories. Some of these come from archives. If you didn't know, I used to work at the Arizona Historical Society as an archivist. And while I was there, Judy Wood found this out. She said, oh boy, I have a whole bunch of stuff at my house that was culled from when we moved offices and we needed some more space in the new office. So while I was working there, I went through what was donated there, a whole bunch of old newsletters and photos and old studies, stuff like that. And while I was there, I scanned a whole lot of it for us to save. Old newspaper clippings, stuff like that. So I had a whole lot of that saved personally for us. And then we also went to Carol West who is a whole fountain of knowledge of just kind of personal stories that she has picked up because she's just been personally interested in the history of our league, and she's always just loved to chat with people who've been long time members. So Sydney kind of brought kind of the two things together, and I put together this PowerPoint. So hopefully Carol will be joining us soon. She's trying to get in, but in the meantime, I'm going to share this PowerPoint. So hold on a second while I do that. Okay, they've changed the sharing options.
Oh,
They do. Does Greater Tucson have a repository for all of our stuff?
Well, at the Historical Society, which is over, on Park by the university, we could donate more stuff there if we wanted to. But now we also have on the website, I've added a whole lot of stuff there recently.
Can we
hold on a second? Let me figure this out.
Right, sorry.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna
Can you see? Should I turn it?
make this a full screen. All right. You ready, Sydney?
I'm ready.
Okay, is Carol still not here yet?
Well, she'll join us when
I
she.
tried calling her and the phone automatically goes to voicemail.
Okay,
So-
well, hopefully she'll get in.
Right.
Okay.
All right, I'll go ahead and welcome. And so I'd like to thank Carol West and Kate Stewart for giving all this information. And the challenge was to keep it short because there's so much information and we still haven't found everything that was archived, but welcome. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have to toggle back and forth to my notes and the screen, so bear with me. But basically, why do we do a presentation on our history? And is it to honor those who've gone before us, to compare and better understand our place in the march of time, or to inspire us with tales of our predecessors' achievements? Yes, to all of those. And so that's where we're starting with our history. And it really began with the passage of the women's suffrage. The National League of Women Voters was formed following a 72-year struggle for women's suffrage. So that was the formation of the National League of Women Voters on February 14th, 1920. And I found this interesting. I didn't realize this, still doing research for this. It was 72 years of effort to gain the right to vote for women. And that really made me stop and think about our efforts and how much work we put into it and how long, what is it, the arc to justice and the arc to equality. So since its beginning, the League has been nonpartisan, focused on voter registration and political participation among women. And this has later been broadened to reach all Americans. And the League envisions a democracy where every person has the right, the knowledge, the desire, and the confidence to participate. So the League of Women, go ahead.
Could I say a couple of things about Carrie Chapman Catt? First of all, there were women at the time who thought that women should belong to a certain political party. Carrie Chapman Catt was a pragmatist, and she said, we'll let women decide that. We'll be an issues-oriented, nonpartisan organization. She had married George Catt, who was a an engineer. He was a builder, and he had a lot of money, and he supported feminism. And he told Carrie that she should do all the work on suffrage that she wanted to, and he would support her financially, and he did.
Good for him. Thank you. So Carol's with us.
Finally.
Welcome. All right. Glad to have you here. And so the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson, which was born out of the women's suffrage movement and the National League, was established on May 16th, 1941 as a provisional. And to start, they were required to study and create Know Your Town. And I have notes that say Betty Grehan, a current day member.
Gian.
Grehan, this is the way members learned how Tucson government worked and what was involved to make it run effectively. And then once they completed that, they were eligible to form a League of Women Voters. And so on October 28th, 1941, the provisional period leaders met at the Tucson YWCA on Fifth Avenue or Fifth Street to formally become a Tucson League of Women Voters. And Helen Congdon
D'Outremont
presided.
And she was a businesswoman in her own right. She was known as Helen, not as Mrs. Hubert.
Right. So she kept her maiden name.
Yeah.
And this is in 1941. Yeah. So the Tucson founders established, and I'm not going to be able to go back to the, oh, there. Thank you, Kate, for if you can just kind of follow my narrative, that would be great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And so they established models of leadership that we continue to admire and strive to emulate. And there is a very complete list and brief description of all the founders in the Celebrating 75 Years, 1941 to 2016, which is on the League of Women Voters Greater Tucson webpage. So Kate's been archiving a lot of that information. So here's just a partial list of some of these accomplished women, and they're very impressive. And Catherine Maxwell taught the first integrated class in the Marana School District. And she wanted to go to law school, but because she was a person of color, the University of Arizona would not accept her application. She was very active, though, did contact Senator Barry Goldwater and was told that he couldn't help. He was non-committal, but he did hire her daughter, Catherine Maxwell Dixon, to work in his DC office. So we felt like he was paying back a little bit there. And she is in the University of Arizona Women's Plaza of Honor. Next slide. And Mary Iva Jeffries Bruce organized discussion groups on current issues for her Sunday school class. And once word got around, these became so popular that they had to move to the University of Arizona Centennial Hall. She brought speakers such as Martin Luther King twice, and it's not in here, but Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, I added it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Eleanor Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy. And news commentator David Brinkley described her forums as the best organized and best managed in the country. So very impressive. So national, the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson was on the national stage. And then we move on, let's see. Okay. Ora DeConcini Martin founded the University of Arizona Newman Center and was very active in philanthropy in her community. She was one of our founders. Thelma McQuaid. She has an interesting story. This is one that Carol tells us, that apparently the Black students were required to march at the back of the graduation line. Well, Thelma had a son who was quite popular and a leader in the school. And so Thelma McQuaid informed the superintendent that if Black students were required to march at the back of the graduation line, that's where her son would be. So ever since then, they did not want that. So ever since then, Blacks have been included in the regular student body march.
One of the things I'd like to say about Ora DeConcini, she was a very prominent family in the community, and I suspect was one of the first people asked to be a founder of this league. And she continued to be a member until 2003 when she died.
Thank you, Carol. Carol's going to pipe in every so often and tell us some of the background on some of this. So that's great. Thank you. All right, next slide. And Dr. Marguerite Williams had a medical practice here in Tucson, which was pretty unusual achievement for a woman in the 40s. And one of our founders was Margaret Sanger. And she is famous for the concept of birth control, a phrase she coined. And she was motivated after seeing her mother go through 18 pregnancies, 11 live births in 22 years, and dying at the age of 49. So she was pretty motivated. And Carol tells the story that she used to throw really good parties.
And she moved here because her son was a doctor here. And that was the motivation. And her house was over near the Arizona Inn. In fact, it's the only two-story house in that area.
Wow. Oh, thanks, Carol. And then we mentioned, we have to say her name again, Helen Congdon d'Autremont. And they are believed to be the largest contributors to the needy in Tucson. She helped found an interracial housing development and used her own funds to help families with the closing costs. And I can't remember how many more we have. There's quite a long list, and if you go back to that 75-year anniversary. So that's a great resource for finding out more about the founders. And these people were very dynamic in the community. These were movers and shakers in the Tucson community. And so if you go through the list of all these people, between all of them, they had Tucson Woman of the Year, Tucson Mother of the Year, multiple Lifetime Achievement Awards, Presidential Medal of Honor, and honorary degrees among them. And many founding members also helped create some of the community entities that we enjoy to this day: the Tucson Museum of Art, the Desert Museum, and the Tucson Botanical Gardens. So when you think about this leadership that created the original Tucson League of Women Voters, and it just keeps going. So the league has quite a history of achievement. Running and Winning started in 2004, Issues and Eggs in 2014, and Diversity Committee in 1999.
I'd like to go back and talk just for a minute about Running and Winning, because it's one of our signature achievements. We do this with some other women's organizations. It's a civic engagement program for high school aged women. They interview female elected officials, and you see here our Senator Kirsten Engel, who is also a league member. And then they go through a mock election process for US Senator, and they can decide on the issues that they want to run on. But we also have position papers that we give to them that they can use. And at least one of those young women has gone on and become a lobbyist for the Pima Council on Aging here in town. And she told me that Running and Winning is where she got her start.
That's great. And I also have notes that say Tucson Mayor Regina Romero attended all of the workshops except one. And this program is also representative of the League's nonpartisan approach. Both Republicans and Democrats support this forum.
Yes,
and then the Issues and Eggs began in 2014, working with the Chamber of Commerce. The first event had 80 attendees and was on training for success to benefit the economy, included a panel from the business community. And 6 or 7 businesses sponsored the first event, and they come back year after year, which is very gratifying. And it's
Issues and Eggs is our main fundraiser. And if you would like to be involved, you can learn by talking probably to Judy Wood. But we started this because we had no money. In fact, we were going to be kicked out of our office on Broadway, but a flood came along and the office was flooded, and we didn't have to pay any rent for a while. and that really helped us along. But Issues and Eggs has been our big fundraiser ever since. The business community continues to this day to fund this program, and it's pretty important.
Yeah. And we have over 300 in attendance, including legislators, and candidates can attend, but they're told no petitions, no campaign brochures. And topics have included joint technical education, Common Core, aging, and others. And I'm sure some of you know of others as well. And then the first DEI group began in 1999 to 2000, and it was organized by League member Jean Connell, and she secured the participation of Pastor Grady Scott of the AME Church, and the community activist Myola Coleman. And they wanted Blacks registered to vote, and they wanted to help with organizing public forums. So today, we now have a new DEI group, and what year was that formed? How old is that one now? I'm not sure, but I know we do have
At least 3 years, Sydney.
Yeah, and they meet monthly to study and discuss social and racial equity.
It was formed in 2018.
Thank you. And the goal of this group is to help focus the DEI lens on all League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson activities. All right, next slide. This is something near and dear to Carol's heart, the Kenya Good Governance Project. This was a project that was sponsored by the National League, and several leagues from throughout the country competed and applied for this program. And so the Tucson League of Women Voters was one of 2 finalists, and then Tucson was selected.
Well,
And
Tucson and Wichita. Could I just talk for just a minute about this? The women, this was a project started by the State Department because they didn't have a very good reputation, you know, in the Middle East. And they thought if they could work with Muslim women, they might be able to help them become more civically engaged and be seen as someone who was helping them rather than hindering them. And if you look on the slide to the left, you see 2 of the women from Kenya. They're at Linda Arzamanian's house. The woman on the far right is Shirley Sandilands, who wrote the grant. And we were one of 2 leagues from across the country that got this grant. And on the right, you see the women in Kwale. That is a very poor area of Kenya on the Indian Ocean. And they love to dance. So we danced and we held workshops to talk to them about becoming more engaged in their communities and how they could do this. And some of them even ran for office. At that point, they hadn't won any offices, but we also encouraged them not to take money for their votes because there's a lot of corruption. And so that was important. And if you go to the next slide, there's Sally Davenport. She also went to Kenya. She was in the area around the Somali border, and they had a clinic there called Simaho that gave birth control. It was for women and children. They worked out in the field. You can see this is a tent on the right, and they would have to rent a vehicle and go out and find these nomads and work with them to keep them healthy because their prenatal deaths were extremely high. This project so moved Sally and me that we had the league raise funds. We raised over $1,000, sent that money to the clinic so that they could get a generator because their electricity there is so sparse, and their drugs had to be kept viable, of course. So that was very important. And these women, some of those women came here too, and we spent time working with public health and other organizations to show them a little more about what can be done on a limited budget.
Yeah. And they also gave out birth control, delivered infants, and took care of AIDS patients. So were you saying that they, the league members delivered infants, or
No,
the?
no, no, no.
I thought maybe when you were visiting. So this was a program that they gave out birth control, delivered infants, and took care of AIDS patients.
Yeah, and I think that's very unique for a Muslim community because birth control is not something that they ordinarily espouse. But these women realized that part of the problem for their people was poverty, and one way to eradicate poverty is to dispense birth control. So
Yeah.
it is, still is going. It's a very progressive organization. I'm very proud, and so is Sally, to be
Yeah.
affiliated with it.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, it's very impressive. It sounds like quite an adventure and a very worthwhile endeavor. And the next slide, please. The league has also been involved in environmental projects, working on the Climate Change Summit from 2013 with field trips to landfills, recycling centers, Abra Valley Recharge Basin, Central Arizona Project, and affordable housing, solar panels at a TEP site south of Tucson. So the league has a very active role, has had a very active role in helping shape the environment and advocating for the environment in this area. They also conducted a land use study. I'm not sure if that's on the next slide or not, but there was a land use study, and there is such a long list of things that the league has accomplished and been involved in. Go ahead, next slide. Oh, so yeah, we have it broken down into we tried, Carol and Kate really deserve a lot of credit for, I had a long laundry list. They've actually broken it down into the eras. I like this one. The league members advocated for a policewoman to be hired. And this is in the 40s, to work with women and children in need of assistance, because men were trying to do it and it apparently wasn't working out real well. So they advocated for that, and studied issues of converting from a wartime to a peacetime economy, held unit meetings focused on United Nations and international relations and foreign policy, and advocated for an Arizona state law allowing women to serve on juries. So that didn't
was
happen.
in 1945.
Yeah. So even though women had the right to vote, they still weren't allowed to serve on juries until 1945. And then again, part of this league to get people out, the league efforts to get people out and vote, creating materials to urge voters to register. And these were distributed in bank accounts, utility bills, and grocery bags, which I think is very clever. Next slide, please. And in the 50s, organized candidate meetings, which is a precursor of the candidate forums that are held now. Maintained a county information book, and this was published in 2006 with the assistance from the Tucson business community, and now it's done online, and registered thousands of voters each year as the population of Tucson rose. And in the 60s, successfully lobbied for a Tucson master plan to direct Tucson's growth, supported urban renewal, low-cost housing, and minimum housing codes. So you can see the pattern of very progressive and actively engaged in bettering the community. So we have a long history of that. Next slide, please. In the 70s, advocated for others for the merit selection of judges, which passed in 1974. And then in 1974, nationwide, men started joining the league. It was decided that men could join the league. And Carol has a story about that.
I do.
Well, you were saying that one of they were thinking about changing the name. That was it.
Yeah, that was later, but the president of the league in Wyoming was a male, and he saw no need to change the name, and that pretty much influenced the entire entire group. I'm forgetting my lines here, Sydney.
That's
So
okay.
anyway, because of the president of Wyoming, we're still the League of Women Voters.
Yeah. So apparently there are men in leadership positions in the League of Women Voters throughout the country. So next slide, please. And achievements of the 80s, advocated for Arizona motor voter law, making it possible to register voters when you're obtaining a driver's license. And in 1984, advocated for an Arizona state law funding free textbooks for Arizona students.
We're not sure who these women are, except on the right is our dear Betsy Zukowski. Some people will know her.
And then in the 90s, voters passed the Judicial Performance Review Commission, which was supported by the League. And this works with the merit selection of judges. So once on the bench, judges are reviewed by the commission every 4 years. And it says printed in a report online for voters so they can decide whether or not to retain the judges. And I know I certainly use that. And the League supported the Clean Elections Initiative in 1998. It passed and it limits the financing of political campaigns for participating candidates.
If you look on the left here, that woman is Mim Morris. She is the one that founded the Leaguer of the Year. She was president at the time, and she felt that there were so many League members who quietly just did their work, and she wanted them honored. And so she started the Leaguer of the Year program.
Thank you. And I have a note here about Rex Graham led a project with low voting areas of Tucson that included close to 48,000 contacts. And I don't have a year for that. Does anyone know?
2018 and 20, I don't know about 2020 if he did it then, but I know he did it in 2018.
So it's maybe in the next section, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then achievement of the 2000s, advocated for independent redistricting commission initiative, which was passed by the voters in 2000, conducted workshops on organizing forums, moderating meetings. And these have proven very popular with community groups, and revised the county book in 2006. And so this would be the era that the Rex Graham
No.
work.
That's the next one.
Later.
Okay. Achievements of the 2010s. There's Rex. I just thought that was so impressive. 48,000 contacts. Wow. And people were encouraged to register to vote by using their cell phones. And then in the 2000s, ensured that every vote was counted in the November 2018 election by joining the amicus brief. And most recently, the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson helped with the exhaustive research and polling to create a gun safety position, which was approved at our recent annual meeting. And this was someone pointed out, this is a statewide position.
It's a state sponsored study. One of the things I'm going to say here, because there may be some new members watching, the state meeting, there were 3 different studies that were approved. That's way too many. I hope that never happens again, because you see there are 2 others that were never got off the ground. And one was racial profiling, which I think is pretty important. This gun safety one, thanks to Kathy, got started. And I want to point out that you can't see Muriel, but Emily Ricketts, Sadie Shaw, Kathy Arrows, who was our president, and Muriel Bothwell are on that slide. And they are very active in the League, and certainly, Judy, they're part of your DEI group and have been from the very beginning. And it's just a fine DEI group, but it's been very, very active, and we give you kudos for that.
Thank you. And then we have, and then I also wanted to, I think, make a point about we did a concurrence that was quite a big effort too for the criminal justice reform, which happened this year. So that was a lot of effort on the part of members throughout the state, but also from the Greater Tucson League. And then we have our benefactor, Harvey Lance. And that always, I like this story of how Carol tells the story of this man that would come into the office and they were kind of worried. He was not well coiffed, I guess, or well dressed. And he was a man in worn clothes and he drove an old truck, and he was always giving his time and effort to help support the league. And at one point he offered to buy the league a new computer, but given his appearance, the offer was declined. People said, no, you save your money. And upon his death, it was learned that Harvey had left a portion of a good size estate to endow an education fund. And after considerable.
If you look on the left here, that man in the Pendleton jacket is Harvey. That is the most dressed up. I don't think I ever saw him when he was that dressed up. But this was must have been some event where all of these people were honored. It could have been because they were office volunteers, and I could tell you stories about every one of them. Linda Huizinga in the back, some of you may know she's still active, but Harvey left 5% of his estate to the league, which amounted to about $72,000. We put that in an endowment, and you have to thank Shirley Sandilands for that, because she did the research and decided that the Jewish Community Foundation was the best fiduciary agent for that. We get 4% a year. Do you know of anybody else who gets 4% on their investment? At this time, that endowment, it's now called the LWVGT endowment. It's worth $193,000. That was in March. We don't know what it's worth at the end of the year, but we will be getting a check in August for $6,000. And our treasurer has to present something to the JCF about how that money is spent, because it has to be spent on education. And so all of the forums and other things where in brochures and so on, where we need money, thanks to Harvey, we can do that.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah. So he sounds like he was quite an interesting man and very dedicated to the league. Yeah.
Well, he was well known throughout the community. There are people that give us money for that endowment just because they knew him. And let's see. Oh, I wanted to talk for a minute here. People kind of scoff at having to go to a workshop for a forum, but let me tell you what happened to Ginny McGeer back. This would have been, I think, in the 70s or the 80s. They were conducting a workshop or a candidate forum for sheriff, Pima County Sheriff. And this was at a bank, and outside of the bank was a man with a bag over his head who apparently didn't like the bank, and he was denigrating the bank and going on and on. People were going inside to the forum and not paying very much attention to him. Well, all of a sudden, he decided he would come inside, and the league bouncer could do nothing with him. And the sheriff finally called out the names of two people in the audience who happened to be his deputies, and they got up and ushered the man outside. And another time, Ginny tells a story about a forum for the county attorney. And one of the candidates came and he had a gun at his belt. Well, he had he had the necessary legal documents so he could carry a pistol. So they had to let him be a part of the forum packing heat.
That's something. And then the Arizona Centennial Party, that was something sponsored by the league, and someone got their nose out of joint, didn't they, Carol?
Yes, the Los Descendientes, who are a very elite historical group here in town, but like everything in Tucson, things are pretty laid back. And at the last minute, they found out that the league was sponsoring a February 14th, 2012 party. And we had asked the Donias, who are part of the Los Descendientes, and some of them are our members, but we thought it would be nice to honor them. And the reason, of course, was that we thought they would draw a crowd, and sure enough, they did. Well, the Los Descendientes came to see Carol Shearer and me, and they were not a bit happy about this. So we smoothed their ruffled feathers over. We told them that they could be a part of the program and that we would give them a free table. Well, as I told you earlier, the league had no money. So Betsy Bolding, bless her heart, called the DeConcinis and said, this would be a nice way for you to honor your late mother. So they bought the table for the Los Descendientes, and nobody was the wiser, but praise God for Betsy Bolding who thought of that. But it was a huge hit and a really good event. And I think they forgave us in the end for taking this away from them. A lot of the Donias over the years have been members of the league. And one who still comes to mind is Laura Almquist, and some of you probably know her. She's still a member.
Thanks, Carol. Yes, and then some members were actually sued because people didn't like what they were saying in public forums. And we had a pro bono attorney who helped out. So no one has been arrested or gone to jail from the Greater Tucson League of Women Voters. You'll be happy to know.
They, we study issues and then we take positions. And we took a position in favor of the Central Arizona Project. Well, there were people in this community who did not like that. And so they were the ones that sued the league. And at a party, nice Betty Guillen, who wouldn't hurt a fly, was accosted by one of these people. And it turned out that the man who accosted her was the brother of one of our founders.
Well, and a lot of it is because the league is willing to take a stand. You can see that throughout the history that we've been studying. And so the league has a long history of tackling hard issues and always keeping a focus on voter education and turnout. And after 72 years of struggle to gain the vote, the women who formed the league knew they couldn't squander this chance to influence the quality of local and national communities. So this story needs to be repeated and continue to inspire new members' commitment to the league's important endeavors. And let's see what the next slide, yes. So the question is, we, the three of us, primarily Carol and Kate, did a lot of the research for this. And so we're wondering are there stories that you would like, since this is being recorded and this can be available for posterity, are there any stories you can tell, any of the members that are here tonight that would like to share anything? Okay. And remember, our 80th anniversary party is October 28th, and there will be more coming on that information. We'll be in touch with you about what's going to happen on the 28th, where and when. And I'd like to close with a few quotes. This is from a male member. These women are knowledgeable, articulate, and collaborative. They are bottom liners who get the job done. And the League of Women Voters, as someone else says, the League of Women Voters is where you meet good people. They are open, thinking, and caring. And the last quote is, the League always does so much and its projects do change, but it always continues. I can't think of another grassroots organization that has lasted so long and done so much. So is there anything from the audience that you'd like to add or share at the end of our presentation here?
This is Dee. Having been part of Rex's Get Out the Vote campaign, at some point we really probably need to honor him. I mean, day after day, he'd take us all out. We'd go to all the businesses in southern Tucson and try to register as many of their employees as we could do. And I mean, it was all summer long. It was in 100-degree heat.
Oh, wow.
I thought I'd die. But his ideas and his enthusiasm just really got us to a lot of success with registering voters.
He was a Leaguer of the Year, so that's a good start.
Yeah. So he has been honored.
Yeah.
So the next step is our party on October 28th. Kate and Carol and I were talking about learning about this history and how hard women fought to become to have the vote, and then creating the League of Women Voters is telling this story and encouraging new members. And so we're hoping at October 28th at our get together that people can bring a friend or encourage people you might know to join the League. And that might be a good place to start. Bring them to the party.
If I could add something, it took me a while to get rid of my mute thing. Carol, sure, you probably know more than I do, but I can remember Shirley Sandiland saying how with Harvey, was it Harvey? He would show up and she would take him to get something to eat, and she would drive him home, and she would pick him up, and he'd go to the post office for the League and drop off all the, anyway, Shirley had a great deal to do with caring for Harvey, thinking that he needed a lot of caring and was very impoverished. And so that's, you know, what happened at the end there was a surprise to everybody, most of all, I think, to Shirley, who, you know, only knew this great, lovely person as a person in great need with little resources. So.
Well, actually, I knew that he had money. I think I was maybe the only one, because he was one of the landowners on the Far East Side who set his land up, I think, with the Nature Conservancy so that it will always be preserved. But was his house something that was important to him? Absolutely not. It was probably, and I think after Evelyn died, she was active in the League too, but that was his wife. Then, you know, I think he probably was lost because they didn't have any children. They just had nieces and nephews. So, and the other thing Shirley laughs about is we were going to raise the dues to $75, and there were people that wondered if Harvey could afford them.
Funny.
I have a story about a famous quote of the League. And when I was in the League in Illinois, had reason to work with the director of housing, and had a personal aside to that his wife was one of my professors in grad school. Anyway, I got into a little trouble, as I can do very easily, and this gentleman who was the director of public housing, who had dealt with the League in our county, I was the president of the ILO there, heard my name and said, "Oh my goodness, this is a League member, and you don't mess with League members. You know, they're steamrollers in lace." And needless to say, the trouble I was in sort of mitigated and diminished, and because of my standing as a League member, who he described all of us as steamrollers in lace. So.
Steamrollers in lace. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Well, that's it for our presentation. Were there any questions or comments?
I just wanted to encourage you all to go up on the website. There's some new stuff up there. If you go under the history page that's under the About tab, you'll see a bunch of new photos, historic photos. There's also some new photos under events. So we started putting up some photos from recent events. Some of them are, like 10 years old, if you count those as historic. But under the history page, besides photos, I put the links up to the storytelling salons up on YouTube. So if you missed those in the past and want to hear those are sort of like oral histories, like panel discussions from league members. And I think there's also a link to that 75th anniversary booklet is on that page too. So there's a lot of info there now.
And I think the thing that struck me most as we were gathering this information was the leadership of these founders and the continued leadership of, that the league seems to always be out there on the cutting edge doing progressive things and doing it in a nonpartisan way. So it's a very impressive history that the Greater Tucson League has.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it back to you, Kate.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Good
And I hope
job.
you all can make it to our party in October.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yes, very good. Thank you for
I
all
have a
your.
question.
Yeah, sure.
This is Becky Saylor with the Northwest Maricopa League. This has been really interesting. Thank you for allowing other groups, other chapters to attend. Your running and winning program. There's an AEW group in Tucson that does a running and winning thing too. Is it the same thing or is it a collaborative effort?
Yes, it's a collaborative. AAUW now and the Tucson Women's Commission are all involved. And I should have said that. I apologize.
I just wasn't sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a huge program. Ongoing, huh? Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, actually, it's usually done in the fall, but we're going to hold off and I think do it next spring. This year, we're not
Oh,
quite
some of
ready.
the
This
high
fall.
schools want us to come back more than 1 year. In fact, Cienega High School insisted that we come back 2 years. And so we did. And but that really isn't fair to the other schools because there's other schools that certainly want this program too.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thanks, Judy Wood for doing all that.
And next week is a statewide program on advocacy.
Oh yeah,
So-
I missed that.
So
Okay.
anyhow, thanks for attending.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
And thanks for the programs. They're very interesting. I'm enjoying them.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Really great program. I
Yeah.
learned a lot.
Couldn't have done it without
You
Carol.
did a great program too, Betty. I like all of them.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay.
Bye,
That's a great
everyone.
idea, Kate.
Thanks.
Take good care.